Hello, everybody, and welcome to Chicago for First Ring Daily, where Paul and I are sitting in a booth.
It's true. It's loud in here.
It is loud.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. We are obviously in Chicago. We're at VeeamOn, but Paul, I think the news of the day is by something that would look honestly really good on this wall right here.
Yeah.
But they don't exist yet. At least you can't buy them. Microsoft announced the Surface Hub 2 today, and while you can't buy them, they're going to start piloting it late 2018. It is a 3x2 50.5-inch display. They aren't saying the exact resolution or weight, but it is a 4K plus resolution in 25 to 35 kilograms, and it honestly, it looks amazing, and I can't believe I'm saying that about a Surface Hub.
Right. I mean, I wrote about this, but I had a fairly transformative experience when I was being briefed on this thing, and it's something that has only happened to me a handful of times in my life with regards to Microsoft products, but suddenly the future became very clear.
Yeah.
You know? And look, Surface Hub today in the two sizes is excellent. It's amazing, right? And it's interesting on a number of levels, of course. Super expensive. It's not a mainstream product. It's the type of thing, even in the business world, only a handful of really big businesses can really afford, especially to buy in mass.
Yep.
And then you see this new one, and that's what I mean. You see the road just opens up in front of you, because you know it's going to be a lot less expensive. You know it's going to be a lot more accessible, and I mean that both to more businesses and business types, but also just to people in general. But because of the lightness of it, and the mounting, and the spinning of the display, it's goofy. I mean, I haven't felt like this in a long time. It's really neat.
And so one of the things that I think is really important, well, there's two things that are really important here that make this truly a Surface. I think, and I don't want to put them on a pedestal, but I think you can kind of tell that Panos finally was the one designing this, or at least had some input. Okay. Mostly because, one, it is now 3x2 aspect ratio, which matches every other Surface, including the Surface Book that were on this. And Microsoft, they love their hinges, and the Surface Hub 2 can actually rotate from portrait to landscape without taking it off the wall. You just one finger and it just rotates, which I think, to me, those feel like Surface features and makes this feel like a Surface product.
Yeah, more so than the original Hub.
Yeah.
Which was, again, amazing in its own right, whatever. It was unique in the sense that there weren't, at that time, any other products quite like it. This product is, again, that thing. And like you said, I mean, it's Microsoft likes to talk about inventing new product categories. So those are kind of hard to come by these days. This is more of an evolution of a product category, I guess. But it is a major evolution of one. And it's, like I said, it speaks to so many things that are central to Microsoft's core strengths. But one of the key ones is this ability to bring... Did someone just walk behind us?
Yes, they did.
So, do you know? Okay. So the ability to bring functionality forward to a much broader audience than was ever before possible. The demo of this thing is kind of awe-inspiring.
It really is.
You know?
It's pretty neat. There's a couple things that I asked, a couple things to clarify. One, while it only comes in one size, they call what you can do is tiling, where you can put them right next to each other. I think up to 4 right next to each other, and then they will all sync up.
In portrait mode.
In portrait mode, yeah.
Yep, and also recording a video, sir. Thank you.
And they look really neat. But the other thing I specifically asked them, and they dodged it like a bullet in the Matrix, I said, hey, what operating system is running on this? And all they would tell me is it is a derivative of Windows 10. I was trying to get them to say, hey, is this running Windows Core OS? Because that was the first indication that this... Yeah. I mean, if you look at the animations, just how fluid everything, I hate to use the term fast and fluid, but when you kind of see this thing, you get an understanding that this doesn't look and feel like vanilla Windows 10.
Well, it never was. I mean, the Surface today doesn't run...
True.
The Surface Hub doesn't run vanilla Windows 10, but in the same way that chip makers can kind of custom tailor things for certain workloads, Microsoft does that with software, with Windows. You see that in the IoT space. You saw it on phone when they were doing phone, but Windows tablets, Surface Hub devices, Xbox consoles, whatever. It just looks, and not just in a standalone sense. That whole notion of swiping content off of your Surface computer
Yeah.
onto the device is very interesting. And then the integration with all of Microsoft services, Skype, or what will most likely be Teams by that point. It's just, I'm just, I'm kind of in an uncomfortable position. I said to the Microsoft folks that I talked to at the time, I said, usually I have some criticism, and I said, I don't know, I mean, we don't know things. We don't know the price, and we'll see what this looks like, what the timing really is. They're saying next year, but does that mean January? Does it mean September, October? We don't know. But I mean, given what we do know, I'm amazed.
Yeah, they kept saying the pricing is going to be competitive to comparable products. To me,
what's a comparable product?
Right. I would love if they came out and said this thing is $2,500. I suspect it's going to be higher than that. But I think if it's anywhere between $2,500 and say $4,500, I think those price points feel okay to me for given what the product is.
Yeah, whatever the price is of the 55-inch today, is that when the 5 to 8?
I think it's 9,000.
Is it that high? It cannot be that price range. Time has gone by. Manufacturing processes have changed. Obviously this is a thinner, smaller, lighter device, whatever. But the pricing will be what really makes or breaks this thing in many ways, of course, in the market. But as far as technology goes, it just looks incredible.
And so for better or for worse, Paul and I had separate briefings on this because Microsoft still doesn't brief more than one person at a time, even though that we both work for the same place. Whatever. One of the things they made clear during the briefing is they kept using Microsoft 365. I think we heard it at Build. I think this is the marching orders going forward. You don't talk about Windows. You don't talk about Office. You talk about the holistic Microsoft 365 experience. They did say that if you are not using Office 365, there still is value in this. But they said Windows 10 plus Office 365 are the target demographic, and they will get the most value out of this product.
Yeah, and honestly, in the context of a work meeting device, that makes sense, right? The customers that are going to be deploying this thing, especially deploying multiple versions of this thing in a workplace, are going to be on Microsoft 365. Or if they're not today, they're going to want to be because of the obvious cohesion of all that stuff together. The other thing that maybe didn't get enough press is that Microsoft is going to work to bring as much as possible of the Surface Hub 2 functionality back to the original Surface Hub. So those customers that did invest in those original generation devices will be able to use that capability and integrate future Surface Hub 2 devices into the system.
Absolutely. And so that is the Surface Hub 2. You can go check it out on Thurrott and Petrie. We got all sorts of good stuff. One other thing, Paul, I do want to hit on before we shut her down. Google One, which was announced yesterday. Google is coming out with what is called a OneDrive competitor, but it's a little bit more than that because it starts at $199 a month for X amount of storage. Here's what's really interesting. If you're paying for that, you can actually get on the phone with a Google expert if you have problems with your Gmail or anything else. And so, other than maybe Google Apps, this is the first time I can think of Google actually letting you have an avenue to true tech support from Google at any time.
Yeah, the key thing here to me, well, there are two key things. One is they've doubled the amount of storage that you get at this price point, which is amazing. So from 1 terabyte to 2 terabytes, you know that Office 365, you can go to 1 terabyte and then you're done. There's no additional storage to be had. In fact, not so long ago, you could add up to, I think it was like 200, gigabytes more or something. You can't do that anymore. I don't know if you knew this. I looked at this today. So that capability is gone. But the other thing, and I think this is even more important, is the ability to arbitrarily add as much storage as you need. So if whatever the price of that 2 terabytes is, I think it's $120 a year basically, you can add another 2, another 2, another 2, up to 30. And that will satisfy, I mean, I'm not going to live long enough to see 30 terabytes of photos. So that's what we desperately need Microsoft to do.
Yeah. And so when I wrote it up, one of the things I wrote is that Microsoft, I think, still offers a better value with OneDrive or Office 365 Personal. The problem is that you're locked in to what you just pointed out, where Google gives you a good amount of flexibility. So if you're just a data nerd and you need a whole bunch of storage, I actually think Google is the better route here than Microsoft until they get their stuff in line.
I hate to say it, but it's true. I mean, when we look at Office 365 versus Google Drive back in the day, or versus G Suite or whatever, one of the things we would have said is, look, you get full office for free with this thing. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
But I think today, looking at it now, I've got a like an editorial I've not ever published that I've not also completed, but it basically boils down to, like, most people don't actually need to buy Office productivity software at all.
Right.
The free stuff that's out there is so good, it's kind of silly to buy that kind of thing. I think the real value in Office 365 today is the storage.
Yep.
And that makes this conversation a little more difficult.
Yeah, I agree.
So Microsoft will address this eventually. I'm curious
Hopefully.
how and when they do it, but yeah.
So, all right, Paul, you got anything else? Because we got a very busy day. We are filming behind the scenes, but
Yeah.
again, I promise you that it's not going to be as good as some of our other epic videos. But we'll have some tomfoolery for our short time here in Chicago. You got anything else?
Did you get George crawling in the ductwork over there? Are you aware of this?
No.
So George apparently set up our little storage area down there like he's a hobbit or something. And
Did he get in there?
Tina has footage of him crawling out of it.
I'm going to need this.
Yeah.
Or was that you, Tim?
No, it was George.
That was George. So,
Yeah, so like we said earlier, I think our time here is busy. So
Yeah.
we don't have as much time.
unlike
for
Build, where
shenanigans.
we just did a whole bunch of.
Yeah. Plus, we're out in the middle of nowhere. Like, it's
Right.
we're not going into Chicago from here. We're out by the McCormick, where we're literally in the McCormick
Center right now.
Center conference area. So we're kind of, we're kind of hostage. But yeah,
Yeah.
we'll do something.
We will find something or other. By the way, if you're in Chicago, we are having a small meetup tonight in the Marriott Hotel right next to the McCormick Center. You can come drink fine scotches and whiskeys with Paul and I. We already know a couple people are coming, and I think I had too many last night based on how I was feeling this morning. But kumbaya, the show
Yeah.
must go on. And thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll try to get as many shows as we can this week, and we'll be back to normal partially next week. And have yourselves a wonderful day.